Welcome to the Scoop Order. Amazing show we got tonight. We have the Heisman Trophy winner and one of the greatest coaches who's ever lived, Jim Tressel and Troy Smith, join us tonight. Talk about Troy's huge golf outing that is coming up. You guys all can buy tickets to it to participate in it. Talk about the first day of Ohio State's practice, some of the great moments from the rivalry game, and we're going to take your questions as well. So if you have questions, get those fired up. As always, we appreciate you guys. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, we appreciate you guys. This show is going like crazy, and we appreciate you guys as we get into the season. It's almost like Christmas Day, first day of practice. People are very excited about what's going on with the 2024 Buckeyes. Loaded team. And I have two of the best, two guys that should have statues in front of the stadium. Troy is coming back in a second, and I have Coach Tress as well. Coach, I'm going to start with you. The 2024 Buckeyes are about to be absolutely incredible this year. You've seen them in person many times. You've seen them on the hoof. Again, you've been around talented teams. You've dealt with teams that have incredible expectations because not every team is the same. Like, I mean, it's kind of like that 05 team that we had where it was like everyone's like, okay, you got to win the Natty or not. But what are your thoughts on this team? And then I'll come to you after that, Troy.
Well, I did see him practice back in March, and two things. One, they have a lot of talent. I mean, they're extremely talented, outstanding coaching staff. Ryan has put together, a heck of a staff. But what I liked best about, you could just kind of feel that camaraderie and that togetherness, and they just had that feeling, again, it was March, and you talk about today's the first day of practice. I don't know if people ever stop practicing. I think they practice all year round, right? And I guess this is the first day of a new section of practice. But from what I gather from everyone I talk to, that brotherhood is growing. And in today's day and age, rosters change more quickly than they did back in the day, and that coming together is critical. And this outfit seems to be very talented and coming together.
Troy, your thoughts. Again, we've been a part of some teams that had humongous expectations. This is a team that has basically won the national championship, or it's a bust type of year. You've been on talented teams. What are your thoughts heading into the 2024 season for Ohio State?
I would echo those sentiments as well that Coach Tress just threw out there, and then also just throw in there too that until the first third and long, we don't know what we really have at the quarterback position. And then, two, just throughout the course of the year, how do we tackle on the defensive end? But I'm super excited about Coach Lachlan, the new running back coach. Feels like I know him already. Super excited about that running back room, that tandem, those group of guys that's going to help the quarterbacks through and through. The offensive line is my baby always, so we'll see how they protect. We'll see how they get down there in the trenches. And then, leading up to that last game of the year, this is what it's all about. We can, talk about the small things, the tidbits, but until we take care of business at the end of the year, you know what time it is.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with these guys going forward. Again, this is going to be a huge schedule. Coach, I'm going to start with you first. Again, we start off with the first couple of games, couple MAC schools, then you have a bye week. You talked a lot about how you carry training camp into the season when you're not playing Texas week 2. How would you handle it if you're Ryan Day? Would you keep pushing it into the season as they get into Michigan State and Iowa, or would you end up letting off because the season is so much longer now than it was when we played and when you coached? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the biggest change is the number of games you may end up playing. If you take care of business and get to the conference championship, and then you get perhaps a bye or maybe not, according to how it goes. You could be playing upwards to 15, 16, 17 games. So, I think you have to be a little bit careful, making sure you don't overdo it early on because you're so excited. You can't wait to get the thing started. I always felt that some of those early games you were just testing out some things, wondering if you could do them better. And maybe they weren't the best things you do, but you wanted to, get them battle tested a little bit. And that's what those non-conference games are for. And I think the fun part about now the way they have it is really your non-conference games aren't going to determine whether or not you can go and reach your potential and go all the way because, you know, uh, when you had two teams, you almost had to be undefeated or have one loss when it was BCS. Well, then it was four teams, and you could sometimes you couldn't have a loss, and so it was hard to grow. But now, with the longer season, with the playoff implications, uh, I think the staff really has to do a good job of doing things in the right doses, and now, Bart and Troy, the technology and the recovery and all of the various things they have, that has evolved since you played and I coached, really can help you navigate that longer season. But uh, every time you go out in Ohio Stadium, though, when it's real, you get excited and you can't wait to get it done.
Troy, what are your thoughts? Because again, the season is so much longer now with the extended playoff. This is a thing that I wish that we would have had in 04, 05, basically every year that we didn't make it to the dance. What are your thoughts on it going forward?
I love it. I love it. I think there's a reason why we have however many 100+ collegiate teams, and every year these teams get better. Every year the teams that quote unquote aren't supposed to get a piece of the pie show that they are worthy. So why not? Why not make it a longer running at the end of the year, going into the 12 playoff team? I think that's pretty cool. I would have it even more teams. That's me just being greedy because I like college football. But we'll see where it goes. I am extremely excited that we are past the four playoff version of the world and stepping into this new stuff.
I agree. Troy, I'm going to stick with you. So, you're a guy that gained the starting spot in the middle of the season in 04. Obviously, you were the incumbent in 05, 06. What is some advice you give to Will Howard? Will Howard's the guy who transferred in. He had a lot of success at Kansas State. He was the guy that was he was the incumbent. He won the Big 12 championship with K-State, beating teams like Texas and Oklahoma. But he's
Right.
coming into a new team. Obviously, much higher expectations than you'd ever have at Kansas State versus Ohio State. But
Right.
what are your thoughts? And what advice would you say? Hey, Will, this is what I would tell you as a guy who's coming into the blast furnace. Because I mean, being a quarterback at Ohio State is not for
Right.
people with thin
The weak heart.
skin,
Yeah.
the weak-hearted.
That's what
I'm
we
telling
call
you,
it. Yeah.
it's brutal. But what would you tell them?
Yeah. First off, I got a chance to meet him a couple times, so I do believe that he's worthy. Um, he's definitely gonna have to be camera ready, so I think he's pretty cool there. They work him out pretty good over there, so we got pretty prime time athletes now. What I would tell him is be like a horse with blinders on. Stay focused, stay steadfast on the task at hand, and when all else fails, check downs are some of your best friends, your running backs, things like that as safety valves. Don't try to do it all yourself. The coaches do a great job with game planning and scheming things up, and that's exactly why once you get to the tier that he's at, the running back is super important. So I would tell him completions, completions, completions. Don't be a superhero. Take the check down when it's there, and let's keep moving the ball downfield. Because the more we have the football, our offensive linemen will take care of us. Coach Day does a great job at play calling. Even though we got a new guy in there now, he's going to do a great job as well. But I believe in them all. Will Howard, just take your check down when it's there.
I love that. Coach Tress, you're a big quarterback guy. You're kind of a guy that really had a big hand in coaching Troy and the quarterbacks while you were at Ohio State, Troy Terrell, a lot of the great quarterbacks we had. What is some of the advice that you would give to Will Howard? And again, you've talked ad nauseum when we've talked offline about Chip Kelly and the impact he'll have on the running game. Again, one of my favorite sayings that you always used to say to us when we would play Michigan is that every yard is golden. 1 yard equals 2 yards. And that's something that I think when you play, obviously it applies to Michigan every time you play them, but I think it applies to, an Oregon game, a game that's going to be on the road. It's going to be tough. Every yard is golden. Keep moving the chains. It doesn't all have to be a splash play. It could just be like a gritty
Right.
3-4 yard gain. Coach, What is your advice for Will Howard as he becomes a first-year starter at Ohio State University?
Well, I think the fact that he's comfortable with the core values of the program are very similar from the program he came from. Kansas State's done a great job, and they have the core values of the team above everything else, and being selfless and having great work ethic and all of those things, which is what the Ohio State program is all about. So he's comfortable in the big picture. Now it comes down to playing your role. And the nice thing that you look at from his past is he rushed for 700 or 800 yards, I believe, this past year, and he throws it well through for 2,800 or something like that. And he can do both. He doesn't appear to be the kind of guy that's worried about whether we throw it 40 times or 20 times. He's most interested in winning and reaching his potential with his team. So I would just tell him to, let it happen, be himself. I agree with Troy that with Coach Kelly coming in and you put him together with Coach Day, and they've had so much experience together. They know how each other think. Coach Kelly has always been a guy that's had an extraordinary run game, which is a quarterback's friend. It's an offensive lineman's friend, so that it's not, hey, we're going to line up and just chuck it 50 times and they can pin their ears back and come after it. And so I think the combination of B. Hart over there on that staff and that new running back coach, I've had a little bit of interaction with him, and he seems to, have the right things in mind when it comes to helping young people reach their potential. And so Will Howard just needs to do his part. Because he's got plenty of people around him, and there's going to be moments when he's called upon to make the play.
Yeah.
And he needs to make the play then. But I think he'll be very comfortable and very well schooled and have lots of talent at his disposal.
Troy, I'm going to come back to you with that because I think that's a great point with Coach Tressel. Something that you did that really saved us in 04 and 05 is, when things weren't there and teams were in man coverage, you took off and ran and you scrambled. And in Michigan in 04, I tell people, I was like, if Troy didn't run, we don't have any gold pants, I don't think. Because, in 05, when we needed it the most, you had the greatest run in school history when you stopped at the marker and Lamar Woodley went flying by and you took 2 more steps and stepped out of bounds. It was the coolest thing I've ever seen. But in 04, they were running man coverage and they had Marlon Jackson, Leon Hall. They had 2 first-round corners and, we had first-round receivers. But when they weren't looking and you could take off and get 45 yards, it was almost like a cheat code. What is it in your head? Is it hey, I just gotta get whatever amount of yardage I can get? Because if you get, to me, I'm always if you get 500 total yards, I feel like you did in some of those games, it doesn't matter. I don't care if you get 500 yards passing, 500 yards rushing. What is it? Is this about getting the dub, getting the win, moving the chains, breaking the team's back? Because I'm the biggest proponent of a guy taking free money as in a quarterback when there's man coverage, there's a lot of green in front of you, and go take 12 yards, slide, move the chains. What was it that registered in your head, especially that 04 Michigan game? You destroyed them running it, and it was all off of stuff where they're in man coverage. Talk a little bit about that, because again, I think that's something that people don't realize that's what won us that game, in my opinion.
Well, it's definitely all those things that you just said. And then also, too, Coach Tress, Coach Daniels, God rest his soul, Coach Bowman, hammering it home away, hammering it in our head and letting us know the algorithm, step up and throw, step up and go. Not only step up and throw and step up and go, but also knowing, too, that once you press the pocket forward, the momentum is going with you. If you catch a defense off balance, and then at times, we weren't scouted very heavy back then in '04, so they didn't know that we were going to be able to have that running element. So who knows? It'll probably be some of the same type stuff with Will Howard here and now. You mentioning before those 3 yards in the cloud of dust type scenario, sometimes you got to just dive in there and get what you need so the drive can continue. Know exactly what the moment calls for, know what your team needs, execute the play, and move the chains. The completions are the most important things at times, But then again, you get a 6-7 yard game, like you said, slide, get down. That's just as good as you checking it down to your tailback and him getting those yards too.
I totally agree.
I'm gonna have to fact check something, Bart, because I don't remember 45-yard run by Troy. He would have been exhausted.
I know he went over 40 on one in 04. I was watching it. I was watching it last night. Oh yeah. I mean,
get the production crew to get a clip because he would have to take 3 plays off if he went.
I'll bet. Hey, just because he had that big flak jacket on doesn't mean he was out of shape, man. I'm just telling you, he's my guy. That flak jacket wasn't always flattering, but he always had abs, so I'm good. So
that flak jacket wasn't always flattering.
Back to that step up discussion. Back to 02. I mean, look at what Craig Krenzel did.
Oh, man.
Exactly.
Good decisions and stepping up. And I can
leading
remember
rusher in the national championship.
Oh, yeah, the leading rusher. And I can remember him saving us in the Illinois game by some step ups. Again, we always said, and Troy knows, I don't want to put him on the spot and ask him the big 3 because that was 20 years ago. But, you know, the number one thing our quarterbacks has to do is make good decisions. And sometimes that decision is there's nowhere to throw it, and I step up and go. And there's where I think Will Howard, I mean, think of Cardell in the 2014, playoffs.
Yeah.
He stepped up and he just ran over people. And so you can go back in history. You know, it's fun to go back and look at all the things that were just like you drew them up. But a lot of the most important plays are the ones that, you didn't draw that up. Somebody made a play at the moment.
Adjust and improvise. A&I. Yes, sir. Yes,
what was the one when you did that little pirouette against Michigan in 05, and then you step back and threw?
What you guys didn't hear is I heard Pierre Woods coming, and he hurled a couple words from the inner city of Glenville. I said, "Oh my God, I got to get out the way." But those are good times, man. Kirk was blocking his tail off back then, man, and we were making plays. That was awesome.
Yeah, Pierre never got around me, man. He should have been a Buckeye, but he didn't come here. He had got more gold pants. It was always funny because little Ted was on here and he talked about they used to steal Pierre's food at lunch and stuff. And it was the funniest thing ever. And Ted was too fast for Pierre to catch him. So
he's like not making that up, man. He's 1,000% correct. I mean, Pierre used to sit at lunch like Suge Knight, like Shrek, like an ogre, and he would just be barreling over his food. And he'd have 3 separate plates with 6 different chocolate milks. And Ted would always have fun with running and stealing his milks. And Pierre people don't understand too, he was a great sprinter. He was a long jumper as well. So he could run foot for foot with Ted at times, but Ted, had that long distance speed. So it was always cool though. Always cool.
Nobody's running with Ted. Coach Tress, I'm going to ask one more question. We're starting to get a few questions on here. We talk about the running game. And again, one of my favorite things, and obviously, I know that 46-47, Dave Power was your favorite play ever. At what point, because again, I love running the ball. There's nobody in the universe likes running the ball more than you do. And I know you like to, and you like to keep the defense off the field and keep them in a good position. Talk a little bit about the running game. Because to me, I feel like, in modern offense, people want to throw it and chuck it all over the field and throw it 60 times a game. But, I think that the cumulative trauma that you can compile from running the ball consistently, it builds up. And I think that that's something that Michigan was excellent at last year, where they would break teams in the 3rd and 4th quarter because they might have a bunch of 3 and 4 yard gains in the first couple quarters, but those end up being 20 yard and 50 yard. And, I think that there's something too when you just double team and pile drive guys the first few quarters. And again, it might not look great on the efficiency page when you're saying, oh, we got 2 yards, whatever. But, when you get guys getting slammed by big centers, big guards, big tackles, tight ends, fullbacks, whatever. No, we don't use fullbacks anymore in football, but talk a little bit about that. Was there ever a point where you're just this isn't efficient, or you're just you know what, we're going to pulverize these teams and we're going to keep our defense fresh? And because I always thought there was a correlation, especially my senior year in 07 when we were number 1 in total defense, but without Troy and Teddy and Gonzo, we were a lot more ground control, Beanie Wells, ground and pound. And it kept our defense. I think our defense was excellent, but it also kept them off the field a lot. So they were fresher. They had to defend fewer plays, which instantly means fewer yards, fewer points. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, one of the things Earl taught us early on in our careers was that 200 rushing yards is worth 300 passing
Mm.
in the cumulative effect of the physical game of football. Now, our
Yeah.
goal, Troy will remember, we always wanted to run it for 200 and throw it for at least 250. That didn't mean that there weren't games where we threw it for 350 and only ran it for 170. If they're
Mm.
loading up 8, 9 people in the box and those kinds of things. But just as a beginning tool, if we could run it for 200 and throw it for 250, and now if they weren't any good, we could run it for 200 and throw for 400. But I mean, against a good
No.
team, you
Yeah.
know, and if we could do that, we just felt that the cumulative effect uh, of the game of football, there is a little bit to the pounding, of that.
I love that. So I'm gonna talk real quick about Troy and your golf outing. Troy, you've got your golf outing coming up on August 12th. Tickets are still available. It is selling out very quickly. A lot of your celebrities are on here: Vince Young, Terrell Pryor, Ricky Williams, Johnny Manziel. Talk a little bit about that. What inspired you to do it? You're partnered with Don't Make It Weird, which is Harry Miller's charity, along with the foundation. Talk a bit briefly about it. Tress and I both don't golf, but we're both going to be there, and we'll be riding along with some lucky foursome. And talk a little bit about that, and then we'll get into some questions.
Well, thank you guys for definitely attending and being there with us. It means so much. We partner with Harry Miller's Don't Make It Weird Foundation for a reason. I myself went through a lot of the mental health things just like he did. We, as a group, collectively want to help get rid of those stigmas, help also, create sort of a toolkit for people that are out there looking for different ways to combat the different things that they're going through. And then also with this golf tournament, create a sense of camaraderie for those folks going through whatever that it is. Come and have a good time with us. We want to talk about those things. We want to break that barrier, and we want to make it to where that you understand that everybody's equal, we're the same, and we're here to help you. Also, too, you guys know I love my offensive linemen. I will say it over and over and over again. Point blank period within the NIL world, the paying portions, that those discrepancies are real. The offensive linemen don't get exactly what they need. We want to raise however many amounts of money to give back to those guys, the big handsomes up front. Without them, nothing gets done. So we want to show them some love. And then, too, third year running, tired of getting our asses kicked by you know who. We building some camaraderie right at the beginning of the year. Uh, your legacy is my legacy with that team up north. We handle business. So maybe some of our juju and some of our, ways of getting things done can trickle down and then get more serious leading into that game. The golf tournament in itself, in its entirety, is seriously to bring together our brotherhood in ways that we haven't before. Make it a staple, make it something annually that we can look forward to. Crack smiles, have an incredible time with one another, and give back and continue to Buckeye lore, because you guys are the reason why it is the way it is, and different ways to give back and different ways to be around one another and have a good time. That's it.
Perfect. Coach Tress, any comments on that?
No, it's always fun being at these outings where, a variety of different people come in, all for the same cause, all just to remind one another. Really, as we always talked about, our attitude of gratitude, for however many years we got to spend as Buckeyes, some of us 5, 4, 10, whatever it is. Those golf outings, you can get together and reminisce and so forth. I'm a little concerned. I didn't notice the list prior to us getting on the air, and the last time Vince Young was here was not a happy day, and so you're bringing Vince Young back to the scene of the crime, man.
Yeah, hopefully he gives you a big hug, man.
Man, that was not a great day.
Yeah.
But they went on and won the whole thing, so you got to hand it to them.
Right, I will say, as soon as they beat us, I was rooting for him to run the table so he'd get out of there, so that 06 we could get the get back. So I was I'm not trying to see him again in 06 too. Go to the Titans and give us some Colt McCoy love. Yeah, it'll be awesome.
It'll be fun.
We got a list of guys that are going to be there.
Little Turtle Golf Club, right?
Yep.
Yes, sir. Westerville, Ohio. Little Turtle Golf Club. On the 11th, we're going to have some pretty cool things going on. A couple different places, a lot of camaraderie there. But then we'll tee it up 8 in the morning on the 12th on that Monday.
Yep, and if you guys are looking to get involved with it, Troy's tournament, Google it, and the site is live. And we're going to get into some questions now. All right, Coach Tress, you get the first one. MJ Phil, thank you for the 10, my friend. Coach Tress, what is it going to take you to run for public office? Ooh, boy, you would win the governor's seat in Ohio in a landslide. I respect everything about you. Coach, I know this will be probably the shortest answer you've ever given. But what are your thoughts on that?
There's no way. I've been having too much fun having time now to reconnect with all of you guys and all of my former coaches. I don't have time, and nor do I have the experience, and so we'll leave it up to some younger folks.
I love that. That's perfect. W. Buckeye, thanks for the 10. Appreciate you, my friend. Coach, besides the Bible, your book, The Winner's Manual, is one of the greatest books ever. Thank you, and Troy, for what you both did at Ohio State. Troy, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, the Winner's Manual is a part of my life still to this day. I lost mines within like moving and different things, a separate one. And then what Coach did was on my first round of being a coach and trying to give back to the kids, he was gracious enough to send me another version of it. And I got a chance to teach my kids the same things that I'd learned to be a successful Buckeye player. They looked at me crazy a couple of different times because they didn't understand my intensity, Coach. You know that the day that you came in there.
I have a story about that, but so be quiet, Troy. So one day I was in Cleveland, and I thought, I'm gonna surprise Troy. He's the first-year offensive coordinator at Elyria Catholic, and he's getting fired up to have a great season. And so I thought I'm going to sneak into practice. Just want to see, what Troy's like. And so I got there before practice began and went in the locker room, and Troy was going off because somebody left a scouting report on the locker room floor the night before, and he found one in the garbage can.
Yeah.
He went off, and I hid in the back, and I thought to myself, now he knows what he put me through. Now he's learning.
But what I seriously understood just in that small amount of time, Coach and Kirk, is Kirk, you and I, we probably would, take for granted those pages of a scouting report and those pages of a playbook. But until you burn that midnight oil putting it together, until you are scratching your fingers with different versions of erasers and razors trying to cut things and separate things and make it perfect and make it just so these kids can really understand it, make it simple, stupid, as you guys used to make it clear and evident to us. And then once we get in there and then the babies and the kids look at it and then they're like, yeah. I'm like, wow. You know what I mean? I see what you feel. I see how you feel. So
Troy was going off, man. I mean, he was. I wish I knew how to use my phone, because if I could have got my phone out and got him on, you would have had a hit show watching Troy get after it.
You would have had a hit show.
I would have loved it because, again, I was a QC in my first year, and I was making like $17,000 a year working for Tress, and it was just like, I used to make those scouting reports. I'd draw the stuff, and so when the kids would they'd leave it behind or they wouldn't read it. I'd be like, are you crazy? It's like that's why some of you guys don't play, is because they'll crack the scout. Crack the scout. And again, I'm not sensitive, but it's like the guys that were good would be studying and learning and trying to figure out the tells that the defense would give them, and then the guys that weren't good would be the first guys to training table, first guys in line, first guys out the building, and I'd be like, it all adds up. Again, I'm not sensitive about it, but the guys that are the best guys are the last guys to dinner. Go ahead.
I can tell you're not sensitive. This is like a support group. You quality control.
I liked it, man, because when Coach Tress told me that he worked at Syracuse and his job was to go make sure he had to pick up the chicken, he had to leave in the third quarter to go get the chicken on the away games. I was like, that tells me all I need. A coach is making millions now, and he's like, I had to be the guy that had to go pick up the to-go lunches at Syracuse. I was like, hey, everybody starts off like as a gopher doing the menial stuff, and nobody starts off as the head coach. And Yeah, and so
Gotta
I
pay
didn't
your
mind it.
dues.
I'll go pick up the Rooster's chicken and go run out and get Coach gas or get his car washed. I don't care.
The
Whatever it takes,
rooster.
man. Go get the Roosters for Coach Tress.
Roosters.
Yeah.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
Sean, Shuck, thank you for the 5. Appreciate you, my friend. I was at the 04 Michigan game. Thank you, Coach Tressel, Troy, and Kirk, for everything that you guys have done for us here. Coach Tress, like, going into that 04 game, I'll never forget the Lantern, our student newspaper, picked us to lose, which I don't know if that's ever happened before, but I was like, it's bad when our school newspaper is picking us to get not just lose, but like get house, like multiple touchdown loss in the shoe. And again, we weren't great. We were like 7-4 going, or 6-4 going into that game. And obviously, Troy turned up in a major way and Gonzo kind of broke out. Santonio roasted Marlon Jackson. What were your thoughts going into that 04 game? Because that was what it was like, I was just like, thank God we have Troy, because he was the absolute X factor that game. But what were your thoughts going into that game?
Well, going into that year, we knew we were going to be a little bit younger, but we really felt good about our talent. And we had a couple great teams in a row. 02 and 03 really were both really good teams. But a lot of those guys graduated, but we knew we were talented, and we knew that if we could just keep getting better every day, that by the end we'd be okay. And remember, we studied John Maxwell's book, Today Matters, because all we worried about each day was how we got better today. And so going into that stretch, remember we were 3-0, 3-3, got beat down at Iowa, and really after that we rolled pretty good. I think we had one loss maybe in there somewhere, but we were getting better, and and we were playing at home. And in that game, I don't care if you're favored or not favored. That's irrelevant. It's who plays that game that day. And, you mentioned Troy's outstanding plays and Gonzo and all that. Don't forget Teddy's punt return. that was huge, and so, but it was kind of everybody did what they had to do. And if everybody does what they have to do on that day, that's why today matters. You can beat someone that's supposed to be better than you. And honestly, I didn't read the Lantern, so I wasn't. I'm sure in the off season I read the Lantern, but that particular week I didn't read it, and so we were so focused on trying to get better that going into the game I wasn't. You never go into that game thinking, "Oh, we got this and we're going to roll them," but you also never go into the game any other way than, if we do these things right and we do these things better than they do, I don't care what their record is or what ours is. And that was the beauty of that game being at the end of the year. It was really the compilation of how much you got better throughout the course of the year.
Yeah. Troy, what were your thoughts going into that one? Because that's your first start in the shoe against Michigan, which again, that's like that's the legacy game, man. That's the first time you get out there, and they were going to the Rose Bowl, we were going to the Alamo Bowl or some lesser bowl game. Like, they had dudes, man, Braylon Edwards, and they're ballers. But what was your thoughts going into that one?
Well, early on, the thoughts was we just didn't know what we didn't know. So we're just going to come in here and tear some things up. You know what I mean? Like, we just like Coach said, we're going to execute and within our game plan do the things that we do well. And it just so happened that day that the stars aligned and we did everything well. Not only did we do it well, but it was incredibly energetic. There was a positive feel throughout the whole sideline for the whole 4 quarters. And Kirk, you know how I can get on the sidelines. You can get some guys with some pouty faces. You can get some guys with some salty attitudes, and that can reverberate. And that could actually, have some output on the game. But it was awesome, man. It was a great feel the whole time. We definitely didn't design jump passes and crazy shit like that, but we went out there and we did it, man, and it was cool. It was awesome. And what's even more cool about that game is Anthony Gonzalez and I spent however many different weeks sharing the roles of winning scout team player of the week at times, and we would always brag and joke about the busted plays that we had where I would hit him deep And then the whistle would be blown at practice, and then, yo, that's not real, that's not real. And then him and I joking, bro, our first touchdown is gonna be a deep post. I'm telling you, our first touchdown is gonna be something deep. And then it happened, and they took that sweet picture where it was like he was floating, he was
He's
levitating.
like,
You know what I
he's like
mean? Both
this.
arms, yeah,
Yeah.
both arms in the air. That was amazing, man. So yeah, it was being young and just being reckless at the time, and definitely wanting to mess their season up back then.
Yeah, and he cooked Ernest Shazer. I'll never forget it. Coach Tress, I'm going to come back to you real quick before I go to the next question. There is proposed legislation right now that will move the scholarship limit from 85 to 105, but that will be a roster cap, and that will eliminate walk-ons. And I'm going to talk about this because Troy brings up the sideline. I remember John Conroy, Tank Whaley, because again, that was my first start. I was like Troy. I mean, it was our first Michigan starts. And it's like those guys, because the guys going against us from Stating Nations, Pat Massey, and John Conroy was just rooting me on and talking trash to Massey. And I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. And McLaughlin, he was an Ignatius guy. And so those guys were all walk-ons. And like, I loved the Tank, because they were all kind of like rooting for me individually when I was on closer to our sideline. And I was like, I was so angry at the thought of basically this rule would eliminate a walk-on. And I'm like, dude, some of the best guys we had that were some of the most, Nate Ebner, some of these guys are super influential. Tank Whaley came with me, the scholarship guy. Coach, talk a little bit about that, and Charles, I'll let you talk about that. What is the role of a walk-on in an organization? Because a lot of these guys, they earn scholarships in year 3, year 4, year 5, and they become huge parts of the team. But talk about that, Coach, because I think that's a crime against humanity if they eliminate walk-ons from college football.
One thing walk-ons did, I felt, is they always inspired the rest of us. You knew they were out there because of the love of the game. You knew it wasn't about them having a scholarship or being highly recruited or anything. And they were just there because they were dying to be a Buckeye. They were dying to do whatever they could. And they were proud of the fact that, they gave a great look, and they helped us get ready. And that we always talked about that sideline that was alive, and that sideline was alive because a lot of those walk-ons, they took that personal, that there was going to be electricity on the sideline. So, the value of a walk-on. Someone asked me once when I became president of Youngstown State, they said, well, how do you like being president? And I said, I feel like I have 12,000 walk-ons. Our student body they were just dying to be there. All they wanted to do was contribute, just wanted to become the best they could be. And they inspired me every day. And that's what the walk-ons on our team did. And those days when we could award a scholarship, I mean, the ovation and the tears and the hugging of those days. But as you know, the only thing constant is change. And who knows? We haven't even begun to see the beginning of the change, I don't believe, that's going to occur over the course of time. But there is a special place in my heart for our walk-on players. They were difference makers.
Troy, I got a quick comment from you on that, and I'll get to the next question.
Yeah. My walk-on brotherhood is arguably, one that I think I could hold up there with accountability across the nation. However many different times that I didn't feel like being a Buckeye when I thought things weren't going my way, the walk-ons would give me a nudge, and then I would not only be shocked back to reality and come back to reality and understand that this guy doesn't even have the actual, olive branches that I have. He doesn't have the resources that I have, and every single day he's in incredibly upbeat mode. His mood is through the roof. And Coach, you know it, I was incredibly temperamental back then because of whatever reasons, because of the inner city, because of whatever version of a kid that I was back then. But my walk-on brothers helped me through so many different situations off the field. We took pride in seriously at times jacking practices up for the first team because of the competitive nature. For however many weeks straight, you are pummeled into the ground until you finally make that one play to Jamal Luke over the top for a post that, you know what I mean, the starting corner was supposed to knock down. and we give each other fist pumps and we're chest bumping, and the next 9 plays we're dogged into the dirt. You know what I mean? Because we made one play. So I love my walk on brothers. The aspect of that to me is kind of the lifeblood of college sports, because without those folks that later on they didn't have a chance on the football field, but some of those guys end up being business managers that help the guys that were the top dudes. Some of those guys end up, you know what I mean, principals that help your kid in a way that you didn't know. The walk on to me is super important, and it would suck that you would get rid of that, because that is college sports to me.
I absolutely agree. NJ Phil, again, thank you for the 10. Coach Truss was my introduction to OSU football when we moved to Ohio from New Jersey in 1999. I could have asked for a better teacher of Meadows football than Coach Truss, and all the great sense. NJ Phil, that is a great note. I appreciate that. Jason Woolard, appreciate you, brother. Thank you for the 50. I remember, like it was yesterday, when Truss showed to the OSU men's basketball game and said, in 327 days, we'll make Buckeye Nation proud. I am 52 now. Coach Kirk and Troy, you are awesome people. Great heroes to look up to. Coach, you told me that story about how, like, you hadn't planned that for very long. I think you asked somebody how many days it was till you played Michigan, and you kind of added that to the speech, like, as you're, like, walking onto the court. What was the background behind you deciding to mention the exact date that the folks would be proud of the team in Ann Arbor, Michigan?
Well, when they introduced me at the game, I didn't know I was going to speak. They just told me, "Hey, at halftime of the game, everyone's running out to get hot dogs. We're gonna shuffle out there, and we're gonna introduce you, and you wave, and that's all. It's all good." And I said, "Okay, this will be great." It's the Ohio State Michigan game. They're introducing this 1AA coach who 22,000 people, 2,000 heard of me. So I'm thinking, well, there'll be, there'll be a nice friendly thing, whatever. And then all of a sudden, after they introduced me, they handed me the microphone. And so, whoa. And I thought, well, I guess I better let them know that I know what's important to them. And we happened to be playing Michigan that day in basketball as well. But who was this? Jason, I said 310 days. If I'd have said 327, I'd have been 17 days late. So it was 310 days. And all the Michigan fans, when we got up to the big house that year, they were holding signs. They were saying, "Oh, the countdown is here. It's 1, and you're in trouble," and all this kind of stuff. But it was I just wanted our fans to know that I knew what was important to them, is that we play the best football we ever play on the last Saturday of the regular season, and that was going to be our goal.
I love that. Larry Daniels, thank you for the 5. Appreciate you, my friend. Coach Tress, how rewarding does it feel to see the guys you coach have success in the NFL and in life?
Well, that's the biggest victories, whether it's the NFL or life or both. Everyone asks, well, what was the, best win, biggest championship, whatever. The biggest championship is watching guys and what they become later in life. And life's not easy. Life has battles, just like playing football has battles, and hoping that you help prepare people for the inevitability of the challenges of life, and that you presented them with an environment that would help them grow spiritually, and that would help them grow emotionally, would help them grow academically, and help them grow with their belief in helping the community, like Troy's doing with this, golf outing. And so when you look then down the road 10, 15, 20 years later, that's the victories. Now, it's fun watching the guys in the NFL. I mean, I'm a Cleveland guy, I'm a Browns guy, but really, if there's a game on and there's some of my guys on one team and not on the other, I know who I'm rooting for. I mean, that's just blood is thick, but no, it's what they do in the future that makes us proudest.
Totally agree. Troy, I'm going to toss this one to you. Barb Barrett, thank you for the 10. Appreciate you, my friend. At the title game in 2002, did the team realize how many Ohio peeps were in Tempe? We were everywhere. No Miami people were in sight. OH, I always say I appreciate you, Barb. Thank you for being on here today. Troy, I mean, again, that was the game where you were obviously chilling because you were red shirting, but you probably got to take in the atmosphere. I've never talked to you about this before, but you're there, as a freshman. And honestly, I'm not jealous of anything in life, but you guys both have national championship rings. I don't, so I'm not jealous of that. But I would love to have one. But I was 0 for my career in those ones. But what were your thoughts, Troy? Like, did you notice how deep Ohio fans rolled out to Tempe in 02 versus the Hurricanes?
So because I redshirted, I did have the ability to take things like that in, and I did see how our fans would travel to the moon if we played there. So yeah, I felt it. I was a part of it. I got a chance to play Willis McGahee that week, and hopefully I got those guys ready for the cutback because I got hit a couple times that week, and that let me know that it's just quarterback from here on out. That's when I thought I could like return kicks and return, you know what I mean? Trying to be athletic and thinking that I got it, and then you take one on the hip and you fall a certain way, and you're like, yeah, I'm a quarterback. Yeah, so that was a great time for me to seriously soak it all in. Not only was I, just a part of something special back then, but it helped me to understand too that if and when we win games straight through, we're going to the national championship. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. If you take care of business at Ohio State, things will take care of the end of the year for you. Hopefully, the kids that are at school now not only understand that and know how privileged they are to be at Ohio State, but how privileged across the board and how respected across the board we really are. And our fans are tremendous.
They are the
But
absolute best. Go ahead, Coach.
building on Troy's response to that, obviously we all noticed the crowd. I mean, it was a home game. I mean, it was crazy, and you could just
Yeah,
feel it throughout the week in Tempe. Like you very seldom ran into anyone from Miami, and it was always our people. But going back to his talking about being on the scout team that game, uh, think about the scout team that was getting our very good O2 team, who had gotten better every week, ready to play with, Troy and Justin was playing Ken Dorsey and
yeah,
Santonio and Roy Hall
yeah,
and
yeah,
Doug Nadish and I mean, we had scout teams. Robbie Sims played a little scout team even though he was playing a little bit.
yeah,
Nick
yeah,
Bingle would get down there on scout team a little bit even though he was playing a little bit.
yeah.
We had some scout team guys, and we kind of knew in preseason that we had a very hungry group of older guys because their first 3 years hadn't gone well.
Mm-hmm,
1999, 2000, 2001 weren't what we wanted. So we had
mm-hmm.
hungry old guys. We had young guys who were very talented and wanted to compete and practice. And that scout team for 43 days, getting ready to play the Hurricanes, they were uh, they got us ready. And
We were
Troy talked
serious.
about
Yeah.
when he decided to be just a quarterback after that. you know I liken it to Troy was a walk-on quarterback. He just walked on from playing other positions, right?
I
Yeah,
love that.
man.
I don't think people realize how important scout team is. I loved playing scout team because it's like that's where you build the depth chart for the following spring. Is like when guys are showing up on film and the defensive guys are like, hey, this guy's going to be a problem. Like, you listen to that when you're building that depth chart into that first week of spring practice the following season.
Yes,
So like
sir.
I embraced it. Again, a lot of people think it's like, they don't want to get their nails dirty. And I was like, man, if I'm down here, I was like, let's get rowdy and like, let's get
Yes,
after it a
sir.
little bit. So I loved scout team. And I always tell guys, I'm like, look, if you're down there and you can block, I had to block Will Smith on scout team every day. And I'm like, if I can block this guy, and he used to
Rest
murder
his
me
soul.
about yeah, exactly. God rest his soul. If he murdered me 95% of the time, but he taught me how to play tackle. He taught me stuff, taught me
Yep.
about, hey, I can read your
Yep.
stance. Hey, you should fix this. And I was like,
Yep.
you're my favorite player of all time. And he walked
Yep.
out with me in the national championship in '07 at LSU. And I was like, this is amazing. It's like, well, talk about full circle. Like Will Smith was my favorite player ever because he used to absolutely destroy me. But you just got to die a little bit slower every time when you go against a guy like Will, because he was that dude. All right, Coach.
Let me add one thing about Will,
Sure.
because it ties into your walk-on discussion. It's just feels like yesterday that I would walk into that locker room. My office was right there by the locker room door, almost
Yep.
every day. Will Smith was sitting there after practice with a walk-on, letting them know he appreciated their look.
Mm.
And
No.
when your All-American, All-Star, best player, whatever, is sitting there encouraging the walk-ons
Yep.
to get good looks, you know, I mean that's how you have a good team.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, he was the best, man. God rest his soul. He was the best. Karis Washington, thank you for the 5. Appreciate you and Beth. Hope you guys are doing good tonight. Coach Tress, I already know the answer to this one. If you're asked, would you come back as a consultant? I know the answer, but I had to
Well,
ask it, Coach.
I'm already a consultant. You know,
Yeah.
I have the largest non-paid consulting firm in America. I consult with you name it. I'm consulting with it, whether it's Coach Day or Coach
Marcus.
Hartline or Coach Laurinaitis or Coach
Uh,
Freeman or Coach
uh,
Fickle or Coach
Yeah.
Haycock out at Iowa State or Coach
Yeah.
Phillips
Yeah.
at Youngstown State or Coach Hilbert at Baldwin Wallace, Coach Ginn at Ginn Academy. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I do plenty of
Yeah.
consulting. There's not enough days in the year left for me to do any more consulting.
I,
Yeah.
I, I love it. That's the absolute best. Donald Karen Rossbeck, thanks for the 5. Appreciate you. Coach and Troy, please give the players a motivational speech in the locker room for Michigan game this year. We love you both. OH, I always say IO. What are your thoughts on that? Because again, I'll let you go first, Coach Tress. Like, the Michigan game, obviously, you came in at a time where we were on the skids, and you got that win in 0-1, which had to have been like a gorilla off your back to get that first win versus Michigan. We've lost 3 straight, which is you can't imagine how bad Columbus is. I mean, you can, but you only lost them one time in your entire career, so you were kind of the opposite of what's going on right now. What are your thoughts, like to get the motivation up or to get the mind right again? Because it's a game of inches in that game, and I tell people against Michigan, you just got to win by 1 point. That's it. I don't care if we have 5 yards or 500 yards. Like if we win by 1 point, I'm good. I don't care what the film looks like. Just win by 1. But what are your thoughts going into that Michigan game this year?
Well, it being at the end of the year, you've been talking about getting better every day and pointing at that game at the end of the year ever since January. And
Mm-hmm.
you've been talking about what you have to do. And we talked intermittently throughout the spring about Michigan. We talked intermittently in preseason. Once we got to the regular season, we were focused primarily on the games we were playing, but you didn't need to say much. I don't remember any screaming and yelling and jumping and whatever, because we had built up to the fact that we know how good we have be to beat them because they're good and they're going to play better than they are because there's nothing bigger for them than to beat us. And so
Mhm.
I don't know. I never felt like we had to say much, but I don't know, Troy. What do you remember?
I remember a whole myriad of feelings, but first and foremost, because we had an incredibly Ohio heavy roster, like we had a gang of guys
Oh,
from Ohio, the 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 tradition and the blood and the understanding and the life blood and the lifeline and the pulse of the team was already to not only keep it in like the front of your thoughts and the front of your mind on how important that this game was, but I mean, layman's terms, drop your nuts and win this game. Like, first off, because of everybody in Ohio, we know how this feels. We have to win this game. Second off,
huh.
because now we're in a dogfight at times in our own backyard against that team up north. We got to win this fight. And then lastly, because we talk about the name on the front and the back of the jersey, the name on the front of the jersey is all of the reason why we got to win this fight. I can
Mm-hmm.
remember however many different games in the past that I watched, whether it was Joe Germain, Bobby Hoying, Stanley Jackson, all of those greats, and I can remember how important that game was at the end of the year. Not necessarily that they won every single one, but I just remembered the way my mom felt, the way the city felt, and I was in Cleveland, the way everyone felt about winning that game. I think now what we have to do, if we don't get a chance to go and speak to him at halftime is hammer it home, not only at the beginning of the year, but midway through from us, because it's going to reverberate and it's going to trickle down to those guys. And the reason why I'm saying all of this stuff is we had guys in prominent positions leave the school, and within whichever forms of media, they talk about this is just a game. This is not just a game. It's not at all. It is a lot of folks checks on the lines, and then too, it's the way that you make money at the end of your collegiate career as well. So you can either be an incredible giant and a man of lore in that game, or we can shrink down and take what we've been taking for the last 3 years. And to tell you the truth, guys, that shit doesn't feel good. I don't want to be there again. And this is exactly why I'm talking this way.
And I will say one thing about Coach Tressel is he was the best ever, because on Sunday he'd have Coach Bruce come in and we'd do the walk with the band, which was always great. And then he'd have Jack Tatum come in on Wednesday or Thursday after practice. He'd have Jack Tatum come in and talk to us. And I was like, Jack Tatum is one of my heroes. And he'd come in, and Jack Tatum, I wouldn't be able to do a podcast with him because the entire thing would just be a long beep. But it was it was the best. And I was like, because those guys they're as real could ever be. And I was like, but they put it in perspective. Yeah, Coach Bruce comes and say, hey, you lose this when you're walking in the back alleys of Columbus. Don't be walking down.
Man,
yeah, and he was.
So.
Yeah, and those guys, they didn't play. They weren't half stepping and halfway Michigan fans and whatever. Those guys were real. And Coach, like, what made you do that?
Serious that
yeah.
You can feel how serious that
yeah.
You got it, bro. You got it.
Yeah, Coach, what made you do that? Because that was like one of the underrated things that people don't realize is like, look, we have like Jim Stillwagon, like, and I was like a Buckeye historian when I was a player. Like I was like a fan that actually was good enough to play at Ohio State. But Jim Stillwagon talked to us, Jack Tatum talked to us. These guys come in, and I was like, whoa! Like I mean, those guys, those are some serious dudes. But what were your thoughts on just like what made you bring those guys in to talk to us? Because Jack Tatum spoke every Michigan game that I played in, and I was like, this is the greatest thing of all time. But your thoughts on that, Coach?
Like anything else, to help us understand how important it is that it's bigger than us. It was bigger than whether or not we'd win or, what our record was against Michigan or any of that. It was, what did it mean to the people that built the program? And that's why Troy was there when we started studying the 1942 team, which was our first ever national champions. And some of those guys are in their 80s coming back. And we wanted our people to know how the people felt that built the place, because we were just there renting space, right? They built the place, and so we wanted them to know, and no one was better at setting the tone for that than Earl. And by the time you guys were juniors, you could have given the speech, because Earl gave the same speech. But why change the speech? Because that's the way he felt. Right. I mean, and he was, it meant so much to him. And then as it did to Jack or Rex Kern, or, I remember Rex coming in, talking to Troy when he was getting ready for his third Michigan game and, all those different things. So like anything else, getting perspective as to how important the tradition is of what you're having the chance to enjoy, and it's no different than in our country. We need to be proud of the tradition. Have we been undefeated in our country doing everything perfectly? Of course not. But we weren't undefeated at Ohio State. But the tradition of what it meant to the people that built it and grew up in it, we have to be proud of where we come from. And that's why we had those people come in and speak with our guys. And because they were, like you said, they were real. They didn't come in with some half step. I mean, they.
No.
But Coach, it's funny that you say that, because the couple times that I've gotten a chance to speak to whomever about why that game is so important, I always talk about Earl Bruce. I always talk about him saying this, and just like you said, the same thing. Walking down the stairs, you're gonna kick your ass. You know what I'm saying? Man, I used to love that. And I used to be thinking to myself, like, man, if he really did that, man, he probably wouldn't have made it to the side. But I love that story, man. So I second what you're saying.
He was the
See,
best. And, marching with that band on Sunday night,
yeah,
Script, Ohio. I mean, come on. I mean, we always teased you guys that the only reason we had a football team was to give the band rest between pregame and halftime. They were the most important thing. And that Script, Ohio, for us to have a chance to march Script, Ohio, I mean, that's what it was all about. So that was the fun of it.
Yep.
yeah, I loved all that. I used to go to Mirror Lake on Thursday too because I'd love to see because our fans were nuts. Our the kids, they'd be jumping in that lake when it's freezing cold, and it's like I would just love to see it because it's like this is how important this is. So it's like we better go win this game. Like that's what it is now. It's like we can't be asked. All right, Troy, I got one for you. Larry Daniels, appreciate you, my man. Thank you for the 5. Troy, was there a tight game where you were on the ropes and you guys just pushed forward and you refused to lose? I always think of the 05 Michigan game where we're down like 2 scores and Troy and Santonio just dominated through that pass to Gonzo. But Troy, was there a game that stuck out to you where, because that's the one I always think of with you. I was like, that was the greatest half of football that a quarterback's ever played, in my opinion, because we were on the ropes bad. And he said, we're not going to lose. I was like, thank God we have that guy.
Yeah, I agree. That was a big one. We had a couple tight games that year. And to tell you the truth, no one talks about the game that we played at Illinois that was down to the wire. And if we didn't stick it out there and remain tough there and beat that tough team with Juice Williams, who was a quarterback and a great guy back then, who knows where it would have been. So I would say, some of the games that, we don't talk about much, definitely, but I agree with you guys. The '05 Michigan game was probably the one where back and forth, and got to figure out who you really are.
You brought up the Illinois game, which I was thinking about earlier when you're talking. I don't know if it was your thumb was broken or something, but we couldn't throw the ball. I mean, they didn't know that. They just thought that I didn't want to throw the ball. Well, we couldn't throw the ball. Troy's thumb was like he couldn't throw the ball, and so remember how cold it was that night, and we had to have one of those, down
defense had to step up.
Nasty 17-10 game or something like that, and
that's what it was.
And that was one that, hey, you never know how things go because injuries affect games and all those types of things, then Troy had a miraculous recovery because he threw for 400 the next week. So I don't know if he did some magic potion on that thumb or what, but
it was Errol Bruce and Jack Tatum.
That's right. They got you healthy.
Put a little bit of Patron on that thumb. Expedition Greg, thanks for the 5. Appreciate you, man. Coach Tress, this is one of the best things ever. Tell us your thoughts on the final play at Purdue in 2002. Tressel to Michael Jenkins, holy Buckeye. This is the best ever because I think everybody on the play got a missed assignment because Coach Tress and Larry Daniels is just big MA on every single grade sheet. But talk to that. Go ahead, Coach.
Well, it was 4th down and 1.5. That's what people don't understand. It wasn't 4th and 1. And we were having trouble making 1 yard, let alone 1.5. So we just called a base play, why shallow? And they brought an all-out blitz. And we ended up picking it up, but I'm not sure everyone picked it up the way we drew it up. But, and Craig was able to step up. And, part of you was like, hey, run for it.
Right,
but his eyes were up the field, and he could have run for the first.
He definitely could have.
Chris Gamble ran the wrong route. He was out in the pasture to the far west, and Ben Hartsock was covered. The backs had to pick up the blitz. There was only one guy left, and I thought, okay, Craig's going to run for this. And all of a sudden, I saw the ball sailing, and I thought, this thing's going to land in the stands. We're gonna give them the ball back, and
God.
Michael Jenkins, it was, and then Chris Gamble intercepted on the next possession when they got the ball back and they were trying to go down and win it. But no, that was but again, you grow from some of those hard times, and that was one of those moments that helped our 02 team grow.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. That's amazing. Travis Hall, thank you for the 5. Coach Tressel, miss seeing you roaming the athletic office at Wayne High School with Jay Minton. Your thoughts, Coach?
Man, we roamed Wayne High School many times. It was Jay. I remember Jay when he was a coach in Florida, high school coach in Florida, and then he came up here and just did a great job. And I know Marcus Freeman, counts on him and talks about his impact on him, and Johnny Hollins and Will Allen and Donnie Evage, and I mean, shoot, we had some guys. We had some guys from Wayne.
Great athletes. Great athletes.
Braxton actually lived in Springfield, but somehow he ended up at Wayne. I got to ask him about that.
I love that. Coach Tressel, CW the second, thank you, my friend. Coach Tressel, thank you for the memories and being a great example. God bless you and Troy. Much appreciated. Jennifer Thompson, thank you for the 20. Appreciate you, my friend. SC Buck, I'm going to do this for you, Troy. Thanks for the deuce. What was your favorite play while at Ohio State, Troy?
Oh, man.
You forgot the IO.
Cool
my bad. OH. You guys do the IO.
I
I love it.
There were a lot of different cool plays. Believe it or not, some of my favorite plays didn't really have me involved. I'm a fan of the game. One guy, we talk about him a lot, but still, I just thought it was incredibly cool to watch his career, the short career that it was Maurice Claret. It was a ball watching him, and some of my favorite plays was early on when we got a chance to play either Washington State or was it San Diego State when he was running all over those guys, and that was my baptism to college football and college sports, and we won the national championship that year. So yeah, all of those plays from when we got a chance to win the national championship that year with Maurice Claret, I think that was some of the most outstanding stuff, most cool stuff.
All right, Coach, we got one of our guys on here, man. He watches all the time. Chris Schmidbauer.
Chris Schmidbauer.
Guy. Thanks for the 10. Appreciate you, brother. I have to support my guys. Curious what you all remember during Gonzo's catch downfield in 2005. Troy, did you know he was going to catch it? Coach Tress, what did you think as Troy let it go? I'll let you go first, Troy.
Incredible play call because we got a chance to adjust and improvise and do some different things downfield. Kirk, you were out there too, blocking your tail off, holding up. Actually, when I released the ball after evading the linebacker, I thought it was an errant throw. I thought I didn't get enough on it, and that was Gonzo jumping and contorting his body and, making the catch. And two, because I didn't know that he made the catch, immediately I was looking at Coach Tress telling him to give me the next play, give me the next play. You know what I mean? Because I didn't know if we completed the play. So I was in shock that the play was made. The play calls and Tress, I got to give you, we never really talked about this, but I got to give you credit for not only adjusting and giving us a chance to morph and grow into who we were, but I remember things being 3 yards in a cloud of dust in the way that the game was called and the way that we changed and morphed and were able to go 4 or 5 wides as soon as the game started off and have supreme confidence in us calling plays, changing protections, doing different things. And stuff like that is the reason why Gonzo was able to make that play, because we had all types of trust in one another, trust in the ability, and we just got the play done.
Coach, what do you remember about that play?
It's funny that Troy mentioned he wasn't sure if it was going to be caught, and he was thinking about the next play. And that's what you do kind of in a hurry-up situation, right? And so, I was hoping Gonzo would catch it, but I was also thinking about, well, what's the situation if he doesn't?
Yeah, right.
That's what we have to think about. And so, but you become spectators for a second in there as coaches because you're waiting to see what the situation is going to be. Do I have to have one ready for the 7-yard line or wherever that was, or do I have to have something ready for back here where we are? And so I felt a lot of confidence in our guys. They were playing loose, and we were behind, but they were playing loose. They weren't scared. They knew they were playing against a great team, but we had confidence. We had the firepower that they did, and we were going to make plays, and I remember the one San Antonio caught for a touchdown, and then they called him for jumping a flip into the end zone.
Oh my God!
And now we're
the worst call in history.
Kicking off on the 20-yard line, but it was, those kinds of games are fun because it's a battle. I mean, you don't know if you're going to win or not, but if you don't get after it, you're not going to be happy. And that 05 challenge was, because they beat us in 03 after we had beat them in 02 and 01, and so they felt like they were back at it, and then we beat them in 04, and so they were at that point that, look, we can't let this series start going the other way.
Slip
and
away,
at their house, and
Right.
they were good. I mean, they were flat out good, and
Very good.
so you knew it was going to be a battle. But I also knew in that year, just like 04, we were getting better as the year went. We were improving as the year went. So we were going to find out if we'd improved enough. I mean, that's what that game was.
I will say one thing about that game is, and again, this is my opinion. My opinion's whatever, but like the best speech I ever heard while I was there was Eddie before the game, because Eddie was off the chain before the game. And he was Eddie. Everyone sees Eddie. He's like, he does yoga and he's like all clean, bald head and lotion and all that. But he melted the walls, and he said a lot of expletives. I was like, is this Eddie, the yoga guy, the guy that does ballet and stuff? This is him. I mean, I was like, he was off the chain, and I mean I was like, wow. Because again, the best thing that you do, coach, is you bring in people that have lost that game. Like Earl Bruce was on the coaching staff when they lost in 1969, when it was probably the greatest Ohio State team of all time. They go up there, Bo's first year, they lose. And again, Troy, like you never were an assistant coach like I was, like Coach Tressel was, where you have to walk down 6,000 flights of stairs from the top of the big house. There's no golf cart to take you. You have to go. We lost in 11. We had to walk all the way down 700 flights of stairs down to the field. And you're wearing a bright red coat. And it was me and Bowles and Doc Tressel, and it was terrible. I was like, I don't ever want to deal with this again. So, but I loved Eddie, and again, it gives you like a nice splash of cold water when these guys say, hey, you lose this thing now. I mean, your life is for the rest of your life. That's one that you're going to want back. So I appreciate that.
When we asked Eddie to come for that game, he was out in the West Coast at the time, and he took a red eye, and he was going to land at 7:00 in the morning. Well, he had a flight delay or whatever, and so he was late.
Wow.
He didn't even. He was supposed to talk to us at pregame meal, and so he didn't even get to the stadium until he walked into the locker room.
Wow.
And when he walked in, he said to me, "Hey, Coach, I'm excited about this." And he said, "Now, if I slip and maybe say a bad word, don't be mad at me." And I said, "Oh, Eddie, just be yourself, and this is a locker room, and whoa." Whoa. I'm not sure I've heard quite an array of
it was like a Tupac album for like 5 straight minutes. I was sitting there, I was like, this is great.
But we teased him after the game. We said, Eddie, you came in and you went out of your mind, and I said it took us until 5 minutes to go in the game to overcome your speech and catch up and beat them.
We were so shocked by all the swearing. I was like, this is great. I love
awesome.
it.
That is awesome.
ZZM, thanks for the 20. Appreciate you, brother. Tress, I was at one of the home games as a student starting in 01 and witnessed your big victory against Scum in 02. That's the memory I will hold on to. What moment did you start to realize that we had a team that could win it all? That's a great question for you, Coach. In 02, what moment did you realize you had a team that could win it all?
It probably wasn't. We were so focused on getting better as we went and getting ready for that game, and we knew Michigan was good. And it was, the bottom line is we held them to field goals, and when we got in the red zone, we scored touchdowns. It was not going to be a high-scoring game, and you better take advantage of your opportunities. And so I think after that game, we knew that now, there was one game, and shoot, we got a 50% chance of winning this game. There's only 2 teams,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
now we also knew the difficulty, the challenge. We knew that Miami, 34 straight wins, defending national champs, great players. But to the credit of our staff and our players, our young players that were playing on the scout, think about playing on the scout team for 43 days. I mean,
Yeah.
we prepared like crazy. You just had so long. It was so different than what we'll have now, which is, hey, you earn the right to keep going, and so you get to play next week. And if you earn the right again, you get to play next week. Well,
Mhm.
back then it was so different, and it was tough on keeping that mental part of it. And our guys did a great job, and I knew going into the game we had a chance, but I also knew Miami was plenty good, and it was going to take the best we had.
Yeah.
I love that. Troy, I got one for you, Mello. This is a great one. Thanks for the 5. Appreciate you, brother, as always. Troy, what is your Mount Rushmore for Ohio State quarterbacks, and what are your expectations for the 2024 Ohio State season?
Wow, that's a good question, man.
That's a great question. Yeah.
So
I know you're on it for sure. You're one of them for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
you might be George Washington. You
so
like the corner spot. Yeah.
There are 5 or 4 here.
4. There's 4. Yeah.
4. Okay, so I would have to go because, even though their talent is tremendous, I still have to stay true to my morals and scruples and the guys that, help mold me and to change me into who I was, So guys like Cornelius Green and Bobby Hoying, and I said it before, Joe Germain, all of those guys seriously have a place in my heart. So collectively, I would put 3 or 4 of those guys up there together. I'm going to kind of cheat because I love Ohio State, so I'm going to give everybody a little love, a little credit. The talent that we see now is amazing. We lost a guy a couple years ago to an incredibly tragic situation, and we never got a chance to really see who and what Dwayne Haskins was going to be. So simply because of his tragic demise and situation, I got to have him on there. The kid that is incredibly athletic and doing, numbers in the NFL across the board, we're going to see what he's going to do in Blitzburg and Pittsburgh, Justin Fields. I'm going to throw him on there with Braxton Miller as well. Okay. So right now I got 4 or 5 guys on one slot.
Big mouth.
I've got
range.
one guy in there, and then I've got 2 other guys. But I would say, and I've always said this because Tress, once you really brought him on board and you got to talking about him, I didn't understand until I saw him in person. He was a tweener, but I've always thought that Braxton Miller at the quarterback position was probably the most talented that we've seen across the board. The ability to run, the ability to throw, the ability to be incredibly tantalizing across the board like Ted Ginn Jr., lightning in a bottle. He's got all of that. I love all of the Ohio State quarterbacks. That's kind of a weird Mount Rushmore, but yeah, Braxton would be on there, Justin Fields, Dwayne Haskins. The kid right now, too, that is lighting the NFL up, I'm going to put me and him, we going to sit above Mount Rushmore. We chilling at the very top. Okay. So me and CJ Stroud, we really at the top, baby. Oh, my God. I'm so excited with CJ Stroud and what he's doing in the NFL, man. So because he's really dicing it up and tearing it up, he's a little bit above about Mount Rushmore.
I
so
love
the only
that.
one that I can think of that, since you have a mountain range and not just Mount Rushmore, you can't leave off Rex Kern.
I won't leave off Rex, but I didn't really get a chance to see a lot of Rex. You know what I mean? The guys,
How much have you seen of George Washington?
Huh?
How much have you seen of George Washington? He's up there.
George ain't up there. George ain't up there.
Right? You haven't seen much of him.
That's Courtney. That's Courtney's place.
Oh,
I
that's
put Courtney right
That's Cornelius. Okay.
there.
I put. I mean, I gotta put Terrell on there too because I was here the year we didn't have Terrell. And we lost 7 games, so I'm putting Terrell on my mount because
Terrell's pretty
when we
good.
didn't.
Terrell's a beast, but if I put Terrell up there, then I got to do something with Braxton, and I can't move Braxton.
You know, and the other guy, you better not end this conversation without discussing is Craig Krenzel, because
He would kill me.
who else was 14-0?
He's the steward, man. He's the guy that helped me to understand A gap to A gap, man. So, Craig, I'm sorry, man.
Yep, you left him. I just saw he put a chat in there saying, "Troy, I taught you."
I'm sorry, Craig. I'm sorry. He's gonna put me in the headlock.
I taught you what Letterman Honda meant, Troy. You didn't know what it meant. You didn't know it was Dave to the left, cars to the right, Letterman Honda. Dave. We had the greatest audible system of all time. Donald Kid Ross, but Coach and Troy, what was your most memorable game for you at Ohio State? Coach, I'll let you go with this one.
You didn't do the OH.
Oh, and OH. I mean, I know I'm gonna get beat down, man. OH, Coach.
Give him the IO.
IO.
There you go.
All right, Coach. Since our boy Mountain Range went for a minute, I'll let you know. What was the most memorable game for you at Ohio State?
Oh,
it's gotta be the Miami game.
I mean, Troy answered the quarterback question. I thought the following question was going to be, is he thinking of running for political office? He'd
be a filibuster expert.
Right. So the same goes with this memorable game. You can't pick one game over the other because the only game that was important was the game you were in, right? I mean, but anytime you had a chance to be in that horseshoe or in some other great stadium in the Big Ten or a bowl stadium, if you didn't look around and count your blessings and realize how lucky you were to represent, the Buckeyes and the Buckeye Nation, if you didn't think that was memorable, then you weren't paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
Troy, I'll ask you, what was your most memorable game?
Winning the national championship in 2002. That was incredibly memorable. Remember going through that whole year and the ups and downs and coming straight from high school and, not knowing exactly what we're getting into, to just going into win after win after win. Incredibly memorable, that national championship game. And then also, too, it's one that we don't want to remember, but when we lost the national championship, I will never forget that. I will never forget that because across the board, when I got a chance to see all of those Florida guys again, excuse my language, I kicked their ass. We whooped their ass. We played against those guys in the Senior Bowl the next week, a couple weeks after, and kicked their ass up over their shoulders. Then we played some of those guys in the NFL. We ran laps around them, threw touchdowns on them. My overall thought process then was we were like deer in headlights in that moment, but we were just as good. We were just as talented, and we really should have been competing in that game and possibly could have won it if we didn't get our tails from in between our legs. Ohio State across the board is going to enter into a bunch of different tough games, a bunch of different top-notch elite games, and we should never think that we're not supposed to be there. We shouldn't be competing. Across the board, we are definitely the best, and we should always compete and be that way.
Well, hey, Bart, we got to talk for just a couple minutes more about Troy tournament because I got to check off at 8:30 for another call. But
got you.
Can you put his thing up about his tournament again?
Absolutely.
Because anytime our guys are trying to pay forward, like Coach Hayes would say, and partner with people like the Don't Make It Weird Foundation, and really just bring people together. I mean, it'll be so much fun. I haven't seen Vince Young in so long. I've never met Johnny Manziel. I'm probably as tall as he is, So it'll be fun.
You are.
It'll be fun meeting him and of course Braxton and Teddy and all those guys you have listed there. I mean, to have a chance to see those guys and visit with them and make a difference in the community. I'm awful proud of our guys when they use their blessings to help others, and that's what so many of our guys do, is they take the blessings that they were given and that they developed, and then pay forward and make a difference in our community and in our state. And in fact, tomorrow I'm going to be over at the Pelotonia activities. Think about what the Pelotonia has done, for the James Cancer. I think raised over $300 million or something.
Sure.
And I remember the first one when Lance Armstrong came in and rode, and they made me ride in that thing. And after 25 miles, I cashed out. I got to be honest. I couldn't make it. They wanted to ride a bike from here to Athens back to Columbus. And we were in preseason training camp. I said, look, I'll get on the bike and, we'll take pictures and all that, but I'm going to sneak out after 25 miles. And but it's amazing what the Pelotonia has done and for the Central Ohio and the James Cancer. And hey, that's what we were given blessings for, is to share them with others and make a difference with our opportunities. And so I'm going to check out and let you guys. Troy's answers are so long, Kirk. You're going to be on here till like 11 o'clock with it.
Yeah, right. Where did you think I get it from? Where'd you think I get it from?
From Barton.
Filibuster.
No, you. Thanks, man. Thank you.
I just try to delegate, man. Well, Coach, I'll get you back on here again. I appreciate you so much, man. Troy, are you still good? You got a buggy?
8:30 was around what I was thinking. So
okay, you guys can boogie on out of here. I'll answer the rest, and I'll get all the because there's like a stack of them. So we'll get you guys back on here again at some point, and we'll answer some more of these. Okay?
I would definitely.
So it's a long season.
Trust me, I get it. Well, I appreciate you both. Okay. Thank you guys both as always. You guys have a good night. Folks, appreciate you guys as always. If we did not get your question answered tonight, we're going to do it again soon, likely in the next few weeks. So I will take all of these down. Again, I apologize for anybody that did not get a question answered. This was a long show. There are a lot of questions. So again, I appreciate you guys. I'm going to run through some right now. I'm going to actually kick it back into our normal show and just kind of fill out the ones that I can answer. And again, anyone that did not get their questions answered tonight, I will get these things answered for you guys on our next show, because these guys will both come back. Again, it was a really good show tonight. I appreciate you guys again. But yeah, there's some really good questions on here. Corey, I will start with you next time about the Wolverine killers. Again, that's a great question. We'll get all of these answered. Again, I'm going to take photos of these, have these things ready to go. And again, I apologize. Again, this thing ran really long. So bear with me, but these will all get answered on the next show. You guys will have priority to this. But I hope you guys had fun. Again, I had a blast with those guys. Again, it was a 90-minute show. It seemed like it was like 2 blanks and it was over with. So, first day of practice in the books. Second day is coming tomorrow. What a night. So again, I appreciate you guys. This is going to be something that we'll get going. We'll get it cranked up. And again, everyone that did a super chat tonight, I will open the show up with you guys. These will all be scanned in, get you guys up on the screen for the next show. But yeah, I just appreciate you guys so very much. If you guys enjoyed this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, I appreciate you guys, all that you guys have done on the show for this show. The show is growing like crazy. It's a great episode. Again, we're going to have a lot of big time guys coming on pretty soon over the next few weeks. I've got a lot of guys booked out. You guys will be excited about it. So again, I will have these guys back on. We will get your questions answered. But I appreciate you guys. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Again, if you guys enjoy this content, leave us that like on the way out the door. Another great show. But thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. We will talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.